Sometimes in chemistry you end up with a long string of numbers, much longer than that. Too many numbers to keep track of. And not all of them are important. So when we talk about significant figures, we're talking about a set of rules, a convention for knowing which numbers are important, which numbers are significant. Here's 1,327,432. If I asked you which were the two most important numbers, which two numbers are the most important, the most significant about this number? It's these two, the 1 and the 3. Because it's 1,300,000. The 2 on the end, not so important. The 1,300,000, that's big. That's the most important bit. So if we wanted to write this to two significant figures, we write 1,300,000. It's like rounding. It works for decimals too. Here's a long number, right? 0.0000001243798. What's most important? Well, it's not these zeros, because they're just zeros. That doesn't tell us anything. It's not this 8, because that's teeny tiny. It's the biggest bit. It's these bits here, the 1, 2. So if we wanted to write this to two significant figures, it's 0.00000012. Cut it off here. And then we did our rounding. You'll remember rounding. You look at the next number and decide whether to round up or down. It's like rounding. So if we look at our 3,246,821 to three significant figures, we count the first three numbers, 3, 2, 4, okay? And then we look at the next one, it's a 6. So it's more than 5. So it's closer to 325 than 324. So we write 3,250,000. Here's 218 to two significant figures. We look at our 2, so we got 2, 1, and then we look at the next one. Next one's an 8. So it's actually closer to 2, 2 than 2, 1. So it's 220. After the decimal point, it works the same way. We've got 0.001283 to three significant figures. We count our 3, not those zeros, because they're just zeros. 1, 2, 3, that's the 8. And then we look and we say, oh, that's less than 5, so it's closer to 128. And I made a mistake. It's closer to 128. Sorry, folks. Look at the next number. It's closer to, the 3 is closer to 128 than 129. So to three significant figures, it's 0.00128. So I said ignore the zeros. That's not true. Some zeros are more important than other zeros. So when are zeros important or significant? There's no zeros in this. But if we put a 0 in the middle, you know, these are all important numbers. If we put a 0 in the middle, then that's important. Because it's just being a number. It's not being a 0 in front, just being 0. It's actually being a number. So they're important when they're in the middle. And they're also important when they're at the end. Because if we look at this, it's got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 numbers in it. Those numbers at the end could have been a 6, or a 4, or a 3, or a 9. But they're not. They're a 0. That means that they're like a 10. So they count. So the rule is, they count when they're between the numbers, like this, and they count when they're at the end of a decimal, like this. And there are actually some rules, and you'll find them, you may find them on your formula chart. If you're in Texas, you probably will. So here's the rules, as written. Non-zero digits and zeros between non-zero digits are always significant. These are the non-zero digits. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. They're always important. And zeros between non-zero digits, like this. If it's sandwiched between some non-zero digits, then it's important, because then it's a 10, right? Rule 2. Leading zeros are not significant. So if they write 0, 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, you know, in everyday life, we leave out the zeros in front of whole numbers anyway. They're not important. They're not significant. If it's 0.0000001235, these green zeros, they're not significant. They're not important. I mean, they tell you how big or how small something is, but they don't count as being important digits. And our last rule. Zeros to the right of all the digits are only significant if a decimal point is shown. That's going way back to the first thing I showed you. 123,000, it's these numbers that are important, not these zeros on the end. So these are the non-significant ones, they're not important. But if there's a decimal point in there, then they are, because they could have been something else.